Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today, in beautiful cherry sunburst finish, we have a Gibson Midtown Custom. The Midtown Series is kind of an interesting one. It doesn't necessarily have the best of reputation as far as the lineups go for Gibson, but let's learn a little bit about them. The Midtown Series consisted of many different iterations that were built to mimic the look of the ES335 and a few other body shapes. You had the Midtown Standard with humbuckers and dot inlays that was emulating the 335. There was also a P90 version of that, which you could say was trying to take the look of a 330. Then there was the custom like this, which is emulating the legendary 355. The Midtown Signature bass, which was kind of like the Les Paul Signature bass, better known as the Jack Cassidy model. And then there was another one called the Midtown Kalamazoo. It was built to emulate the Byrdland, and I've also done a video on that one. So this is the custom out of that run, and it's one of the more desirable ones from the run because, hey, you've got a Gibson USA Nashville made, not Memphis like most 335 styled guitars, and it looks like a custom. I mean, it's got some really fancy appointments to it. But how does this differ from like a 355 or another ES335? Well, they're basically built in a completely different way. You cannot call this a 335 or anything like that because they are so different. These are essentially chambered Les Pauls, just in a different body shape here. So what they do is they take this big slab of mahogany, they chamber it out, and then they put a maple top on it, and then they put the binding, just like a Les Paul. Now, if you're not familiar with 335s and the like, the way they do those is they sandwich the top and the body and the sides together in a Maple-Poplar-Maple sandwich. You can check out the Government Series 335 where I showed you that. And they bend it. They kind of have a carved top to them. They're not completely flat like the Midtown Series is. As you can imagine, that takes a lot more labor to bend the instrument into shape like that. And that's kind of the reasoning behind the Midtown Series, is they wanted to make things that looked like 335s and 355s and everything like that, but they wanted to keep the price down. They're slightly reduced in size as well, so if you don't like the big 335, like it looks funny on you because you're not as tall or something, these are another good option for that. However, these things kind of have a bad reputation. There's a lot of flaws on these from the factory. Like when these things were new, you could find them damaged on eBay all the time. There's usually a bunch of different finished blemishes, this one included. If we take a look here around the edges of the binding, you can see where the finish kind of ran over it. And it kind of looks like there's cracks forming in many different areas, but it's just purely cosmetic finish blemishes, just not very good attention to detail. And the few of these that I have had, they were okay guitars. They're not fantastic. But what that means for you is on the used market, these are fairly inexpensive guitars. I mean, your standards, they'll range anywhere between like $800 to like $1,300 or so. And your customs, I would say top dollar for one of these is about $1,600. So they can be a good value in that way if you don't mind those little nitpicky details. Cherry Sunburst is a little bit more of a rare finish. The owner of this one is the custom build guy again. He was told that this was one of 3 that was exported into Canada. But when I look at this guitar, I want to make some modifications because this really looks like an Ace Frehley type thing. And I'm not the biggest Kiss fan or anything, but I love the look of his custom. So I think throwing in 2 double white humbuckers on this thing and then giving it the pearl tips to the Grover tuners, I think this would be a really cool Ace Frehley 355 thing going on here. So now that we've learned a little bit about the Midtown Series, let's go ahead, throw this one on the workbench and take a look at this one's parts. First, we'll take a look at the pickups here. It appears we have the burst bucker 1 in the neck position and the burst bucker 2 in the bridge. And those are reading about 7.8 in the bridge position, and the neck is a little less at 7.41. Now here's something funny. When you take that out, from the factory there's a smiley face in the neck pickup cavity, and HS standing for Heritage Cherry Sunburst or something close to that. You can see that's what the neck tenon looks like. And it's really cool how they route out that little section right there for the wire to go through. But here's where you can see how thick the maple top is on top of that mahogany body. Bridge pickup cavity also has some markings on it, DSDCCT. I'm not really sure what that stands for. But there you can also see how the wires go down into the channel. The bridge and tailpiece, nothing too special here. It's just your standard API advanced plating incorporated parts. This is Nashville in style, and then your tailpiece is just a full weight version. I'm not really familiar with the dimensions of an ES335, so I'll go ahead and grab these just in case somebody else is. It looks like you got about 11 inches at the top, so that's about 2 inches wider than a Les Paul. And at the widest portion, it looks like you're reading about 15, which is also 2 inches more wide than a Les Paul. Body-wise, from where the neck meets it, it looks like you're at about like 17 or so. And if you remove the pickguard, you will have that little hole right there, and you also got the one on the side. But here's what your pickguard looks like in and of itself. Nothing too much going on here. You have 2 volumes and 2 tones. I'm not sure if it's true, but these feel like they're more close together than on a regular 335, and this switch feels less quality than normal. Kind of hear how it sounds weird? Gibson switches are usually a little bit quieter than that. Moving on to the fretboard, you have rich light on this model. Now if you find one that does not have fret nibs, there was a brief period of time in 2014 when they did away with those, so that's not necessarily meaning that you have a fake right there. I don't really see any quality issues on this one here. And the face of the headstock with the truss rod cover removed looks like this. You can see the truss rod is in great shape on this one, and the mahogany neck right there. And you have the Gibson logo and the custom block inlay here with Grover tuners. The nut width is 1.68 inches, which increases to 2.08 by the 12th. First fret neck depth of 0.84 inches, which stays pretty slim at 0.9 at the 12th. These utilize the traditional 24 3/4 inch scale length. Perhaps my favorite thing that they did with the Midtown series is this small little piece of attention to detail. Normally on a 335 or a 355, you're not going to have a back plate. They fish the electronics through either the bridge pickup cavity or the F-hole. So if they would have routed a back plate cavity like normal, you would have been able to see through the instrument to the back plate, which would have looked ugly. But here's what they did. When they routed this back control plate, they didn't go all the way through. They left enough wood right here to make it look like the semi-hollow guitar that these are mimicking. So they give themselves just enough room right there to put the pots in, and then they just wire them all up like that. So I always thought that's interesting, and then kind of an unfortunate design right there. I absolutely love the back of this one though. This cherry sunburst finish, it looks good. I'm not usually a huge fan of this finish option, but this one looks great. You've got the nice mahogany back with tons of wood grain. Same thing with the neck. It's a nice dark color with the burst. I mean, this really is a beautiful example here. And of course your Grover tuners. And this is a 2012 model. This example weighs 8 pounds, 1.3 ounces. Now that we know how this guitar is built, let's go ahead and hear how it sounds. Now that we know how this instrument sounds, I will not be going over the condition of this one simply because it's not for sale. This is another one from that private build collection, but it was definitely nice getting to take a look at one of these. So I'll go ahead and throw it under Blacklight real quick for you though. But unfortunately, we really don't have too much going on here, except for, as always, the headstock binding always glows, kind of like that Epiphone we had. But you know, you can see right here, as it switches to the body binding, they must do something different, like use a different style. But nothing too much to go over on this one. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.